What connects you to what you value most in this life? This year, my sermon series is about practices of connection, the things we do that draw our attention to what matters. Some might call these practices spiritual practices, but I believe they have as much or more to do with the physical realm as the spiritual one. When we practice something, we are doing it over and over again, maybe multiple times a day, or daily, or weekly, maybe for a season of the year. Why do these things, though? Most of the world's religions have practices to help people remember their adherence to a path and to be reminded about the values of that religion. Beyond today's topic of fasting, we will also be exploring throughout the year charity, justice, worship, pilgrimage, prayer, meditation, rites and rituals, and Sabbath or rest. All of these things turn up in different ways in religious life, but are often set aside or ignored when our lives and our calendars fill up with the various things of life. When we do not let go of these practices, they call us back. If we get too busy for a time, but a holiday comes along, the idea is that they invite us back into the tradition. If we forget for a few years, the practices are waiting for us to pick them up again or to discover some of them for the first time. This morning, some of us may be participating in a rather odd practice, that of fasting. I invited people to share in this practice of connection with me this morning at whatever level makes sense for each of us. I am choosing to participate in a water fast or a wet fast, which means I can drink water or plain tea, but not consume any food from sunrise to sunset today. A dry fast is when someone doesn't eat or drink anything for a certain period of time. As the young members of our community reminded us in our Story for All Ages this morning, there are fasts for medical reasons, dieting purposes, to raise awareness of political or justice issues, and many, many others. In religious traditions, the reason to fast combine empathy and devotion to higher ideals or connection to the divine. To be hungry is to have a glimpse into the lives of those who cannot access enough food. To abstain from eating is also to change the order of our daily lives. An incredible amount of our time and thought revolves around food and meals in our lives, and to abstain from something as central as food changes our experience of the world itself. Our bodies are quite literally in a different state. In several religious traditions, it is thought that fasting opens one up to connection to the gods. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus all have fast days observed at different points throughout the year. In fact, as the holiday of Thanksgiving was developed and adopted, a corresponding fast day was also part of the observation, particularly in New England, and statewide fast days were being observed until 1894 in Massachusetts and all the way until 1991 in New Hampshire. Our own Pennsylvania House of Representatives voted to have a National Day of Fasting as recently as April 2013. So what does it mean for us to choose to enter into a practice rather than to have it laid out for us by the government or the religion of our ancestors? I hope it is invitational. I hope it piques curiosity and creativity, because the way I am exploring the practice of fasting doesn't have to be the way you do. I think it is the incredible power and challenge of our own religious tradition. There are not many hard and fast rules to observe in Unitarian Universalism. They are more universal in content, but rarely do they get down to the specificity of what you and I should do on any particular day or in any particular season. This year, we've been asked to give up many things in the name of the good of the larger whole. Our acting differently, not doing things we would otherwise do, and reflecting on what we do each day is all about bringing attention to the smallest of acts. And it is the willingness to engage in these alternative practices that connect us to all of humanity right now. In a counterintuitive way, our distance from one another is a practice of connection too. We are holding back in order for more people to be there when we can gather together again. When we fast, we withhold sustenance from ourselves for a time, and through that lack, we come to understand the value of fullness in a different way. We also can look at our lives from a different vantage point. How does food connect us to our pasts, our presents, and our futures? How does water connect us to all of life? And how do our choices around these things impact all the other people and creatures on our shared earthly home? When we limit our gatherings with one another, how do we value the time we will spend together again? How do we decide who to be with and the value of a hug? We value things most when we do not have ready access to them or when we choose to let them go for a time. In this year, so unlike most years we can remember, it could be the time to develop practices of connection with what it means to you to be a Unitarian Universalist, what it means to you to be guided by a moral compass toward compassion and empathy for as wide a circle of life as possible. Some of the practices I share may fit for you. Some may not. What I hope, though, is that you will find a few that give these days that blur together some definition, practices that help shape and delineate some parts of the day, the week, or the year from one another. Some ways of being as being out of bounds, off limits, ways you do not want to be, and some ways of being that are in line with who you want to be most, how you want to approach this life, and what you want to see more of in this world. Because that is what religion often proclaims to do, to mark the right way from the wrong way of life. What you have the ability to do here is to practice what it means to be you in such a way that calls you toward your better self and toward deeper relationship with that self and with those around you. When you then break a fast, it is a time of celebration. When we collectively return to our gatherings, it will also be a time of celebration. May each of us practice what it means to be connected to this season. May each of us practice what it means to be apart this season. May each of us be ready to break the fasts we are keeping in due time. May each of us celebrate the harvests of life, hold on to what we need for the long winter, and support one another until we break our fasts together again. So may it be.